Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 6:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, in Cafeteria B of Westfield High School, 550 Dorian Road, Westfield, New Jersey. The Board will move immediately into private session to discuss matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. The public portion of the meeting will resume at 7 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, February 5th, 2026, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, NJ.com, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tappan to Westfield, District website, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Patty, may I have a roll call, please?
Rob Bonaccio.
Here.
Kent Simons.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Charles Gelinas.
Here.
Layla Morelli.
Here.
Sonal Patel.
Here.
Kristen Sonic Schmeltz. Julie Steinberg.
Here.
Mary Wickens.
Here.
Mary, would you lead us in a flag salute, please? I'd like to make a motion that the Board approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the Board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. May I have a second, please? CJ is a second. Just do by hand vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are in executive session. All right, the Board is back from executive session. Let us start with any announcements. Mary, do you have an announcement?
Sorry.
No problem.
Yes, I do. Okay. Westfield Public Schools is excited to welcome our newest learners. Registration for kindergarten and grade 1 for the 2026-2027 school year is now open. Families can find detailed instructions, required documents, and registration forms on the district website under student registration. We look forward to welcoming our newest members to the Westfield Public Schools community.
Very nice. Kent?
Thank you. Edison and Roosevelt Intermediate Schools are proud to announce that 11 students have been accepted into the Central Jersey Music Educators Association Region Band and Orchestra. That's a mouthful. This outstanding accomplishment places these students among the top young musicians in Central New Jersey, as they were selected from a highly competitive pool of more than 500 student musicians. The selected students will proudly represent Edison and Roosevelt schools as they rehearse with their respective CJMEA ensembles and prepare for a culminating performance this March. Thank you.
Nothing better. Sonal?
Westfield Public Schools is proud to announce that Music for All has named the district a recipient of the 2026 Advocacy in Action Award in the Elementary Excellence category. This prestigious national recognition honors outstanding music education programs, and Westfield was selected for its innovative Wild Symphony Children's Concert Initiative. The Advocacy in Action Awards celebrate educators, administrators, families, and community members who champion music education as an essential part of a well-rounded education. As part of this honor, Westfield's program will be featured in Music for All's Advocacy in Action archive, serving as a model for music educators across the country.
Layla?
The Westfield High School Schoolboys Winter Track Team claimed its 5th consecutive sectional championship, defeating Watchung Hills 48-38 at the NJSIAA North 2 Group 4 Sectional Championship. With this victory, the Blue Devils tied Ridgewood for the second longest sectional title streak in New Jersey history. Congratulations to our student athletes and coaches on an incredible achievement and a remarkable championship run.
Julie?
Westfield Public Schools will be closed on Monday, February 16th and Tuesday, February 17th in observance of President's Day and the Lunar New Year. District offices will be closed on February 16th only.
You got the fun one. All right, with nothing on there. So with the announcements done, we'll move to a report by District Administration. Dr. Gonzalez.
Sorry, I have too many tabs open. Give me 1 second as I pull everything up. Okay, it's been a long day today. Before we get started with our report and presentations, I did want to address the security incident that took place earlier today at the high school. And for those who are not aware, suspicious writing on a table was discovered and reported by students to their teacher. The school implemented our safety and security protocols to assess the situation in consultation with our security professionals, as well as our partners in law enforcement, which led to a shelter in place at the high school and ultimately a lockdown in order to allow our Westfield Police Department to conduct a thorough investigation and sweep of the entire school building with officers from Westfield and other municipalities using K-9 and technological resources at their disposal. Because this remains a police matter, I cannot share any additional details at this time. But I am relieved to report that the lockdown was cleared and lifted without incident. Students and staff remained safe throughout the entire experience, with students being dismissed at approximately 2:50 p.m. As a precaution, our elementary schools and intermediate schools were placed in a shelter in place, with instruction continuing while the investigation was underway at the high school. Having a front row seat to the entire experience as I was at the high school, actually meeting with Ben, when this all went down, I do want to emphasize a number of important points. First and foremost, today reinforces why we consistently ask for full cooperation with safety expectations. Wearing student IDs, taking drills seriously, practicing regularly, and following directions immediately, even when it's inconvenient, are not optional. They are essential. In emergencies, seconds matter, and compliance keeps people safe. Second, we take safety and security with the utmost seriousness. The lives of our students and staff are not something to be joked with, not something to be tested. Beyond the disruption to instruction, we must be mindful of the physical, emotional, and medical impact that an extended lockdown can have on students and staff. I also want to commend our students and staff for their calm and responsible response today, and thank the Westfield first responders and neighboring municipalities for their swift action and the resources they use to deploy to ensure the health and safety of our community. I also want to thank our families and community members who supported our response by not flooding our school phone lines and by not coming to the area around the school. And by cooperating that way, you allow law enforcement and school personnel to do their jobs to keep our schools running, but also to ensure that if emergency access was necessary, the streets would not be congested. After events such as this, counseling supports will be available for any student and staff member who needs them, and we will have a visible police presence at our schools in the coming days as an added precaution. Finally, we will continue to cooperate fully with law enforcement and support the investigation. If a perpetrator is identified, we are prepared to impose the strongest possible disciplinary action under our policies and to cooperate with law enforcement if criminal charges are contemplated. During emergency situations, our first priority is to maintain safety of our schools. We strive to communicate with families, providing them information whenever appropriate and when possible. Sometimes it's not immediate because we're in the middle of managing the crisis, but when we are able to do so, we get that word out. Our commitment remains clear that safety and well-being of our students and staff will always come first. So I want to thank everyone for their support and understanding of our efforts to keep our schools safe and secure. Now, this was not planned, we move on to the student safety data system summary report. So that is a mandated Department of Education report that we complete every year, and we do that in 2 cycles. Most recently, the report that is on this agenda this evening is for the first half of the school year, September through the end of December 2025. It's an attachment on this agenda under the notes for the record, and the report details incidents of violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and confirmed HIB cases, while also tracking student removals, the use of restraint or seclusion, and anti-bullying training and programs. The administration uses these summaries to evaluate and enhance our ongoing safety and prevention initiatives. Beyond those 2 reports, I'd like to now invite Patty Ramos and Matt Bolton up to the podium as we kick off the next in our series of presentations regarding the upcoming 2026-27 budget development. Presentation is going to highlight a little more detail than we had the last time, really trying to provide an overview for everyone who's watching, as well as the board members in attendance, an overview of what is in the preliminary budget that we are currently drafting. So I want to make sure it's clear to our media partners, as well as the Board of Education, this is not a final budget. This is a budget at this moment in time that represents the submissions of our school and department personnel and administrators. We are presenting so that the board and the community is aware of all the proposals that we are contemplating for this upcoming school year. So we're going to provide highlights of all that work, as well as go into details regarding the fiscal impact that even this proposal would have, in order to then engage in a full board discussion about the key decision points that will allow us to move further. So for the next 2 slides, Patty's going to walk us through the fiscal aspects of the budget as it is currently developed. Then Dr. Bolton, myself, and Patty will go into the highlights of what makes up these slides before we then engage into the further discussion about where to go from there. So Patty?
So this first slide you've seen before, the projected expenditures pie chart. What has changed is salary and benefits. It was just at 80% last year. Now it's almost at 83%, and that's a direct reflection of the increase in health benefits for our staff and also our contracted salaries that are settling at the 2%. Everything else went down slightly around that, but again, this always highlights the majority of our budget is salary and benefits. So when anything has to be made that's going to change anything, that's the biggest amount of money that we spend in the district, is our people. The next slide here is our projected revenues. And again, there's a very large blue part of this. That's our local tax levy, is 91.6. Again, went up by about 1% from last year, estimated right now. The state aid number that we're using here is frozen from last year. We still won't have that number until March. And everything else we left the same. Extraordinary aid, our tuition, student activity fees, as you can see, that's a small amount of the pie. Our interest is still budgeting about 2% of the entire revenue source. I don't increase that number because that's based on bank interest rates. We can't lock into anything else. If I don't make that number, I have to make it up somewhere else. So if I budget the same amount, like a steady amount, I know I'm going to get that. If I get anything else, I can put it into reserves at year end. But if I fall short on it and I budget too much, so if I try to plug my budget to make it work this year and increase interest revenue, and something happens next year, we'll fall short and we'll be in a worse situation that you see some other districts in. So we tried to keep everything very flat and level and not make any changes, drastic changes on the revenue side. And now we're going to go into curriculum.
Hi, everyone. So thank you for allowing me a few moments to present on the budget submissions of the Curriculum Instruction Office. Last meeting, I talked to you a little bit about what we were doing with resources and funds from this past year's budget, and now I'd like to talk a little bit about projections for next year. So fundamental to the work that we're doing underneath this strategic plan is ensuring that every student in this district has a consistent, coherent, and viable curriculum, and that translate into learning experiences in their classrooms. So the root of that is our rewriting, complete overhaul of all of our curriculum documents, which takes years because there's so many curriculum documents. So we will continue to invest in rewriting, and that's done by teams of teachers and administrators, most typically over the summer, so they can really immerse themselves in that work. If you know any teachers, ask them how curriculum writing goes after school. It's not a great experience, but if we can immerse them in it over the summer and give them, you know, a number of days to actually build those documents, it results in a much richer product. So we're going to continue to do that in all of our high school science courses, our intermediate visual and performing arts courses, our intermediate school health program, intermediate and high school world language courses, high school humanities courses, and all of our social studies AP offerings. Now, that's just stage one. Those are the public-facing documents. In an understanding by design model, there's also stage 2 and stage 3. And that's where really the rubber meets the road in providing curriculum being a true resource to our teachers. The work we're doing there and have been doing over the past 2 years is creating documents that serve teachers through having clear and coherent instructional plans and clear assessments across grade levels and courses. So that work's going to continue. We're going to continue to do that work in a number of disciplines that have already submitted and been board approved with stage 1 documents. So those are K through 8 language arts, K through 8 math, K through 8 social studies, and a number of tech ed courses. Next slide. So we are also really excited, and as I said the first time I presented last month, these are the things that get everybody excited as new courses and new programs. However, these are also the things that cost money. So these are the things that involve additional staffing. And what I will say is the things that I'm going to speak about tonight, we are ready as a department to launch next year. We have done the research, we have surveyed the students, we have run pilots, we have written the curriculum and had the curriculum presented to SIP, our Curriculum Instruction Program Committee of the board. So we're ready to go if these things are able to be included in the budget. But we also recognize as a department that we can't do everything in every year. So the new courses that we're interested in launching next year, Money Mindset Part 2. Money Mindset was a course I talked about last month. That's the 6th grade elective that we're running. It was really well received by our 6th graders, so we're building a second part for 7th grade. When we talk to 7th graders about money mindset, they say, how come the 6th graders get to have that course and I don't? So we're going to provide them the course. American Sign Language, ASL, at Westfield High School. That's in line with a number of key goals within our strategic plan, specifically our inclusivity initiative and objectives. This provides a more diversified approach to our world language offerings, and there's significant interest in this course. Elementary gifted program redesign. We have invested many months, a ton of energy, and a ton of work into redesigning our gifted program at the elementary school. What we're proposing is to redesign this program to launch a new program next year, which would include bringing our gifted students back to their home schools. So no longer would gifted students be bused to Edison from their elementary schools. It creates a more efficient model. And then the following year, the subsequent year, we would work to redesign and implement a change at the intermediate schools. AP Macro at the high school. AP Economics is a course that's offered widely in many other communities. We have not had it at Westfield High School, and our kids are extremely interested in taking the course, so we're going to provide it. Something that's not up there but should be, we're also launching over this summer a summer online asynchronous financial literacy course. That is something that's been requested by the community for multiple years. Financial literacy is a state requirement. It's a semester course, and while students are interested in it, it also blocks them out of taking other semester electives that they'd like to take. So if they can take that course over the summer and throughout the year in an asynchronous online way, we're going to provide them. And we're looking at resources right now. We've run a pilot for that course. The cost will be $0 to families to run that course. Curricular resources. We are also To ensure that all of these new programs and new curriculum translate into excellent classroom experiences, we are also purchasing resources, and we're budgeting for new resources. We, in the Curriculum Instruction Office, we budget for classroom libraries at each of our elementary schools. We budget for new programs such as, or extensions of programs. We run the Foundations Early Literacy program in grades K through 3. We're going to be launching a pilot for grades 4 through 5. There's resources that need to be purchased to run those programs. Any new course or new program requires resources. So textbooks are expensive. We have to budget for them. Assessment instruments and assessment platforms. We're going to continue to expand our use of diagnostic and screening assessments. Our tech ed programs continue to expand, and also in line with the expansion of our referendum, building a new tech ed space, we need new tech ed tools. So this next year, we're budgeting for anything from robotics kits to CNC routing machines to, these are not just hammers and screwdrivers. These are pretty advanced pieces of technology that cost a lot of money that we need to provide our students so that they can have an excellent tech ed education. And visual and performing arts supplies. The Curriculum Office provides a significant amount of supplies for the visual and performing arts program, anything from panels for the art show to new instruments to the rental of trucks to ship band instruments back and forth to contests. So lots of those funds come from the Office of Curriculum Instruction. And finally, always a focus and a central point to the work that we do is ensuring that we have high quality, job-embedded, sustained professional learning for our teachers. So we provide professional learning through both in-district programs and workshops and through bringing in high-quality experts into our district and sending teachers outside to conferences and workshops outside of the district. We hope to continue to do that. Just this year, we offered teachers professional development in teaching in the age of artificial intelligence. We budgeted funds to provide for staff wellness. We continue to work with NJTSS and the grants that we have with Rutgers University for our foundational literacy instructional strategies and assessment tools. And we are also highly invested this year and continuing into next year and subsequent years in continuing to develop our teachers' ability to provide small group instruction in the classroom. We also provide teachers, when we run new AP courses like AP Macroeconomics, those teachers need very specific professional learning experiences offered by the College Board, and they're provided through AP Summer Institutes. We always provide any new AP teacher with AP workshops so that they're prepared to teach the course. We're developing a new Westfield Teacher Academy where our expert teachers can share their wealth of knowledge and experience with their colleagues. That's another thing that we're budgeting for next year. And you'll hear in a little bit when Dr. Gonzalez talks about some of the technology platforms that we're interested in launching next year. We are also budgeting for a technology professional development platform where we can upload our own internal videos, because there is a ton of professional development that happens on a cycle. So when a teacher retires and a new teacher is hired, the learning that happened with those specific programs that I just shared, that new teacher needs to be trained in all of those new programs. So if we have our own internal mechanism to do that, then it just helps us and creates a more efficient system. So those are the things that we're budgeting for from the Office of Curriculum Instruction. Thank you.
Moving on to personnel, as Dr. Bolton mentioned, through professional development, through curriculum writing, we see that there's a human resource element associated with that. This particular side is really focusing on, more specifically, the actual positions. So the budget, as we have developed it, include all the salaries and benefits associated with all the staff who are employed in the school district. So those salaries and benefits are for the full-time staff, they're for the stipends that are paid to individuals, they pay for lunch aides, they pay for substitute teachers. All of that is also factored into the current budget as we've developed it. We also identify that as enrollment increases, our needs may also increase as well. So when we look at the increased enrollment at our schools, especially in our elementary schools, We note that there may be a need for an additional special education teacher or social worker in order to ensure compliance with students' individualized education plans, as well as an additional assistant principal at the elementary level, specifically at Jefferson. When we researched and asked around neighboring districts, typically when schools, elementary schools, reach around 500 students or more, that's when you'll see an assistant principal added. In our case, over at Franklin, we have over 500 students. We have an assistant principal. Well, at Jefferson, as of, I think, January's enrollment, we are at 499. So we're at the point now where we believe that it would be prudent for us to be able to ensure that we have appropriate administrative support, which is why we've currently built that into the budget as it's presented. What you also see is in addition to our existing staff, so the majority of what you are hearing about are those things that are currently in place, our current administrative team, our current office and clerical support, as well as all of the custodial maintenance and technology personnel, in addition to the instructional staff, certificated, and education specialists. So we have a ton of folks already in there. But we also see opportunities for us to continue to expand offerings. As mentioned, we have an interest in expanding our Money Mindset course to 7th grade. In order to do that, not only do we have to write the program, but we need a teacher to deliver it. So that's why we've added that as a potential enhancement. We also see, in order to take our existing gifted program that is housed at Edison School, and in order to create an elementary program that is home-based, school-based, we would need to hire 2 additional teachers in order to help provide the delivery of services along with our existing enrichment teachers and our existing gifted and talented teacher. So we see that as an additional need as well. We also have listed an additional part-time security officer at the elementary schools. We currently have 4 part-time security officers who supplement the work of our law enforcement throughout the district. We have school resource officers already in place at each intermediate school and the high school. So this would be a school-based, school-employed security officer with law enforcement background who would assist in providing security oversight at our elementary schools and also provide assistance in after-school events when necessary. And last but not least, we've heard on several occasions requests for an additional swim coach to support our swim team at the high school. So that stipend was also included as part of the budget as it's currently been developed. So beyond personnel, another aspect of what we have to do in order to ensure that our schools are well-equipped is to make an investment in our facilities. So Patty?
Right, so our base budget includes custodial maintenance supplies and materials as usual. Our 3rd grade classroom furniture was in the base budget as we're trying to do each year. 1st grade, 2nd grade, we're at 3rd grade now. And then the groundskeepers that we had added a few years ago are still maintained in there to maintain our athletic facilities and school property. Now, what's included in our capital reserve projects for next year, which is outside of the cap because that's the money that we've already put away in our savings account that we'll be doing. So we'll have no impact to the tax levy for next year. McKinley boiler replacement, tank and pumps. Lincoln, that changed today. That's going to be happening now. But it was scheduled for this summer because we knew we were having some issues with it and both decided to die. So we're currently working on that right now. Edison is replace, expand fencing at the JV and varsity baseball fields. We've done work over at the high school field, so now we're going to move over to Edison with the fencing over there. At Edison, we're looking to replace about 17 classroom floors. They're old asbestos floors. We did them at the high school. We have 1 area left at the high school that we're going to do this summer, and then I'm not saying all the flooring is new, but all the asbestos flooring is gone at the high school. Edison, we're going to replace Edison and Roosevelt, these are combined really. We're going to be replacing the auditorium system lighting boards because they're old enough that they're not working anymore. Now, I know if you ask Rob, he had ones from when he was in high school that worked, for 30 years, may still be working. But the newer technology doesn't work anymore. Doesn't last as long as the good old stuff did. So we're looking at replacing that as part of cap reserve.
last but not least, included in the budget, and I do want to just underscore, everything that we've talked about up to this point represents a budget that continues to maintain the work that we're doing. It allows us to build upon that work and advance it to the next level, whether it be stage 1 documents turning into stage 2 and 3 curriculum documents, or being able to implement courses that have been developed. So what we are looking at is, again, being able to continue to provide our schools with the resources and the environment to deliver the education system that we've been developing over the past several years. Now, when you look at technology, technology has become an opportunity for us to identify tools and resources to assist us in all of the above. It helps us to be able to deliver curriculum. It helps us to be able to manage our curriculum. Helps us to be able to deliver assessment. It helps us to be able to analyze assessment and manage our data. So in order to do the instructional side of our work, we have technological resources available to us, and those are included in this budget as well. We've also identified within our budget the opportunity to identify other platforms that could help us be more effective and efficient in how we deliver services around everything from human resource management, recruitment, retention, and managing applications, to managing our student information, our human resource information, and our budget systems, all through technology platforms that we've invested in over the years and or that we're looking to introduce this coming year. And in doing so, that allows us to be more effective and efficient in how we use our time and allow us to then reinvest that time into developing programs or being more deliberate in how we implement these programs. The other items that you see there listed include reference to security upgrades that are constantly being examined. If you look around our schools, you see everything from card readers to cameras in our system. What you don't see is the back-end software that is used to manage all of that. That's also included in this budget. We're also looking at software that allows us to be more effective in managing all of the technology platforms through a single sign-on software system. That system would allow us to make it easier to manage all of the different platforms that we have, but also monitor those platforms for usage to ensure that we are getting appropriate return on our investment. If we're able to see that software that we have invested in is not being used, then it allows us to course correct or make decisions whether or not it's necessary for us to continue. So that software, again, allows us an efficiency, but it also allows us an opportunity to monitor implementation as well. And then the last item I want to highlight, it is part of our security upgrade, but it is something that I think is emblematic of where we see ourselves in the technological, educational realm today, which is looking at digital hall pass solutions. Secondary schools are now increasingly looking at options to make it easier to track where students are in the course of the day. And when we think about times where we have to investigate vandalism, when we have to find out where students were at a particular moment in time, when there's movement in the hall, especially in a building this large, when you have 1,800 students, having the ability to be able to use Turnstile, our student check-in system to get in and out of the school, as well as a digital hall pass solution, really gives the administration the peace of mind to be able to know where students are, when they are, and when situations arise that require us to be able to investigate and look further, we now have additional resources at our disposal. All of those things are built into the existing budget and are things that would be beneficial to us in order to continue to reinforce the work along the lines of curriculum, as well as safety, security, and facilities management. Now, we move on to the next slide, and I'm going to turn it over to Patty to deliver this news.
Thanks a lot, Ray. So now how much does it cost? Now this slide you've seen over the years, obviously it's a lot larger this year. And again, a big piece of that, as I've been saying since the beginning of the year, is health benefits. We are not alone in this situation. It's happening across the state. I've reached out to numerous other BAs that we're all in the same boat, around the same percentages. So what's happening, I want to explain a little bit about the health benefits too, because I'm getting questions even in my own town, like, well, why don't you just change the health benefits? Why don't you charge more for the health benefits? The state controls under Chapter 44 the base level of plans that we have to offer to new employees coming in. It also controls how much we can charge the employees for those benefits. What it doesn't control is how much the insurance companies can raise the cost of those premiums every year. So districts are seeing anywhere from, I think the lowest I've heard is about 14% to over 30% for an increase for next year, which is unheard of in education. So we're all struggling to deal with that with our hands kind of tied that we can't open negotiations and negotiate with the groups and come up with a different plan. These are the plans that are mandated and the costs that are mandated to us. We can't charge the employees more. So I think that gives a little bit better background on this and where we're at and what's driving a larger portion of this. So the proposed tax increase for the base is 6.57, and the additional spending proposal would be a 1.06. That's what doesn't fit within the cap with the health benefit adjustment. The health benefit adjustment is so large because of state health benefits going up by over 30% next year. What I want to also highlight is every time, if I make changes to this budget, so if I reduce what's in that 1.06, it changes the base number. So this slide, it says preliminary, it means preliminary. It's going to keep changing depending on what comes in. If state aid changes, if we make changes to our budget, even for the additional, if I take off additional staff that are in that red portion, if they have health benefits, it changes my whole cap. So everything keeps adjusting. So you will see different versions of this as we move along.
So again, I want to update, or I just want to piggyback on what Patty just shared because it's absolutely critical to understand. Everything that we discussed in the previous slides is represented here. That represents everything that we have as an administrative team looked at and reviewed and thought would be viable for the upcoming year. It doesn't represent everything that the administrators asked for. So there are additional courses that people would love to run or additional staff that people would love to have. But we recognize that we are in a very tight situation as a state and as a community. So we felt it was necessary to really pare down those requests to things that we believe would be beneficial for us moving forward. That does not mean that there is still not room for discussion, which is why we continue to underscore the fact that this is preliminary. So I'm going to ask Patty to join me up again here because, again, we are being as transparent as possible, as upfront as possible to make sure that people know exactly what we're facing and what we are up against, because these are not easy conversations to have with the board, let alone with the community. When we were presenting our budget, our referendum last year, a $225 million bond referendum was nothing to sneeze at. We wanted to make sure every community member and every taxpayer understood how that was going to impact them, as well as how it's going to benefit them. So in this slide, Patty will break down, again, how we, in our current version of the budget, see the impact based upon the current known variables.
So I just got the rateable information from the town towards the end of last week, and what the rateable information is, it's the total taxable amount of the township of Westfield. So everyone's tax assessed property all added together. And what that comes up with then is how much you're able to calculate the average, from the average assessed value of that, which the township gave me was $834,534. You're able to come up with what portion of the budget you would see an average house be charged or go up by. So for the tax impact at the cap right now, your taxes would be about $12,534, which is an annual tax increase of about $609 from last year. The additional spending proposal would be another $136, the way it stands right now, but which ends up being a $745 tax increase to the average person in Westfield. Again, as Ray said, that's for the budget in total that was presented tonight. We obviously have different scenarios and things we have to discuss after we go over this, and I also broke it down by month. You've seen this slide before, we do it every year. It's just this year it's a little bit more because of what we're facing as a district in the state.
So this is where we have to start making decisions as a board and an administration. So when we look at the base budget includes all of the above. And what doesn't fit into that blue portion of that prior slide are 8 existing teachers, as well as the additional staff mentioned. So it includes all the facility and maintenance supplies, all the technology platforms and subscriptions. It includes all the curriculum work stipends. It includes the continuation of extracurricular activities and offerings, as well as supports and services. That's all included in the base budget at the adjusted cap. So what we have to decide is what, if any, we will prioritize moving into the next year. And I want to make sure it's clear that people understand, as Dr. Bolton had mentioned, we are ready to go. So if we put a hold on something, then it is just that. We will hold it until we are ready as the district to be able to fund it responsibly and sustainably moving forward. We don't want to put something in place that we then have to cut in the coming years ahead. So when we get to that point, when we are ready, we will be able to implement these things. So as a Board of Education, we're now at the point where I'm going to turn the questions to you and ask President Bonaccio to, facilitate the discussion. But really, we have a few questions at hand. The first is, are we, as a board and administration, going to present a budget for adoption in March that consists of revenues that make use of the tax levy cap and all adjusted waivers? So that's that full blue portion. If the answer is yes, then the next question is, do we wish to also introduce an additional funding proposal in order to maintain the current teachers as well as add additional staff? And it could be any combination of those, but understanding that as it is currently presented, the base budget does not include 8 current teachers. In addition, if the base budget is the only budget that we have, so we decide not to go to an additional funding proposal, then the administration would then need to go back to figure out how we can find the funds necessary to maintain those 8 teachers. So you saw additional furniture being proposed. You saw improvements that we would look to include. We would need to see what would have to be done to adjust that base budget as it's currently presented in order to make room for those 8 teachers. Our goal in all of this has always been premised or prefaced by maintaining programs, maintaining class sizes, maintaining class offerings and services so that the student experience is preserved. So we want to make sure we adhere to that as a priority, and keeping bodies in classrooms and in our offices and in our buildings will make that possible. We also want to make sure that we, to the extent possible, are able to preserve our current staffing model as well. So all of the questions that you see here first begin with the question about the base budget. So, Mr. Bonaccio, just ask you to help facilitate this discussion.
See, this is why I like old lighting boards. It all sounded great, and now we have this, and you see the money. So I just want to make sure the board understands the questions that are coming out, right? We have a base budget that is going to, I guess, get a cap waiver that will put us up over the 2%. So what we would be voting on, just to kind of put it back into voting terms, what we would be voting on in March, I guess when the budget was presented, is not a 2% cap per se, because that's what everybody says. But because of the waivers, what we'd be voting on, if we kept things the way they're presented right now, is not a tax increase of 2%, but a tax increase of 6.57%. Just stop me if I'm in the wrong spot over here. So our first question is, are we comfortable with that even to start with, right? Or looking at other things that we're doing, and I'll phrase it in the context of our referendum, of the fact that over the past few years we've done additional spending proposals. Are we comfortable asking the public for that based on what we're seeing and what we're adding and what's staying there? Okay. The second part of the question is, is the red portion. The red portion is the stuff we'd like to add in. And for the past few years, we have been in an absolute position where we've been able to not just maintain, but also expand. And all of that has been, in my opinion, for a very good reason, right? We don't want to be a district that runs in place. We've had that problem before. And certainly a lot of the things that I hear from parents are, well, this is happening in this other district, and why aren't we doing it here? And even some of the things we have, quite frankly, and I sit on curriculum, Dr. Bolton talks about some of the technology that we have. Some of the stuff is new to us, but some of that stuff has not been new around our other school districts. I don't want to make it sound like we're in dire straits here. It's not like Fred Flintstone versus the Jetsons, so to speak. See, I'm really dating myself, right? Old lighting boards and that, right? But we are talking about not the cutting edge, per se, that other districts are seeing. Now, we have great staff, we have great teachers, we have great custodians, all of whom are making this stuff work, right? And our mindset has been over the last few years, let's not just make it work, let's make it better, okay? But we're seeing here, make it better, costs a lot of money. And we have just asked the public, not just for the last couple of years for additional spending proposals, but we do have a referendum coming up. And those dollars are going to start to hit, I don't think it's this year, but it'll be the next tax cycle, I think. So, I don't envy the fact that we're put in this position. I think there are a number of systemic things that are forcing us, and again, we're not alone in all these other districts here. I think that we cannot continue to have the requirements that our state continues to put on us, the limitations that our state continues to put on our budgeting. And I'll give you an example. The technology slide that you presented, I'm seeing upgrades to computers, upgrades to security systems. If in this day and age, technical computers, security, if these are not capital expenses by now, I can't imagine what else anybody would consider them. But to my knowledge, we can't include them in capital reserve. Why would you not want to budget for regular computer replacement? Why would you not want to budget for regular security? If I need walls in my building, I surely, certainly after today, need as much technology as I possibly can to ensure security. But unfortunately, we're not going to, look, those are elections for another day, and I'm going to leave certainly my political stripes out of this, but I'm getting real tired of great ideas, perhaps at times, being thought of, and the figure it out and how to spend it being pushed down to school boards and school districts and folks like us. That's not the way this ought to be. But that's what our boards and our districts are facing. And that puts us in a position where we're not talking about cutting fluff. We did that. That was a couple of years ago, we were in a position that none of us wanted to be in when we were making some significant staffing cuts. And look, I could justify a couple of those cuts as like to haves, would have been nice to keeps. But and I think most of us have looked at this, I'm certainly on finance as well, when we looked at this, we're not in a position where, people are going on nice vacations and things like that, and we're budgeting in fluff. We're talking about bone, and I have to be honest, advancing programs like this, I'm not sure how you don't consider that bone as well, right? It's one thing to say, I'm going to take away teachers, right? It's another thing to say, well, we're also going to run place for another year. But these are the decisions we have to face. And I'm not, at this point, I'm not advocating one way or the other. It's kind of what's coming out, and I want to make sure the public gets what this group has to figure out in addition to what we do, because everyone here takes this very seriously. Everyone here would like to vote for this and then some, right? But the question then becomes, how do we pay for it? And how do we keep continuing to ask the people who have entrusted us with a great referendum and great projects to keep, well, we got more, right? And we want the public, obviously, to understand what it means now. Cutting here means these things that we've been talking about that the public has been asking us for, right, don't get to happen maybe this year, or maybe have to happen next year. And look, families in town do that all the time, right? My air conditioning unit breaks at home and I got to replace it. That's $7 or $8 grand that I didn't think I had. On the one hand, I got to do it. On the other hand, I don't say, well, great, now that I've written my $8,000 check, now's the time to, take that African safari I always wanted to do, right? We got to start thinking, about things that way. and being responsible to the district, but also responsible steward. So that is, I guess, my preface to the discussion. I wish I had an answer to give folks, and I'm hoping someone will throw some this way, but what we're being asked for is direction, right? What do we want to see back from this process that will help us balance what we're doing and see where we are? I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is a path, and I think if we ask for certain data and you show it to us and we cringe, I think we still have a chance to talk about it, but now is the time to certainly see this discussion, have it out to the public. So with that, Brendan?
Thank you, Rob. So I prepared some statements because I've been through a couple committees now looking at these numbers. While all the programs and initiatives that Dr. Gonzalez presented are very worthwhile and truly aligned with our district's long-term goals, I believe we have a responsibility to remain disciplined stewards of the taxpayer dollars. This year's 6.57% cap is driven almost entirely by rising healthcare costs, not expanded programming, and that really means we need to tighten our belt and control spending where we absolutely can. Over the last 4 years, our community has supported significant investments to bring our facilities and operations to a state of good repair, culminating with the second largest school referendum in state history. The additional items before us now are largely enhancements to programs and expansions, things we'd really like to have, but not all of them are absolute necessities at this moment. At the same time, we know additional funding will soon be needed to support full-day kindergarten. For those reasons, I do not believe we can reasonably ask taxpayers for an additional $1.5 million roughly this year, even if that does mean reducing roughly $800,000 from what would otherwise be maintain the course budget, an amount roughly equal to about 8 staffing positions, which I personally hope can be addressed through attrition rather than layoffs. By keeping the budget within cap and avoiding the second question, there is no separate budget vote required. That certainty allows the administration to plan staffing and programs now rather than waiting till the end of April for election results. This provides greater stability for staff and families while positioning the district to address the significant investments we know are coming next. At the same time, we continue to face an endless amount of unfunded state mandates that place increasing pressure on the local taxpayers. For that reason, I believe we should seriously consider using the mechanisms available to us under state law and the state constitution to challenge those mandates with mandates that are imposed without additional funding support, an effort that will be easier if we pair with neighboring districts that are all facing the same problems. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Who else wants to jump in? Leila?
So Brendan, we've been together for almost 6 years. That's the best I've ever heard you. You're here. So I agree with what you're saying. Oh, sorry. Sorry, repetition. Brendan's the best today that he's ever been. So I agree with everything that you're saying. I think of it kind of like as a like a honey-do list, right? These are things that have to get done. This is where money has to be, and we have no control over the healthcare costs at this point, and it's a lot of money, and we have to get done the bare minimum, and we hate to do that because we have a wish list too, but I think right now, exactly what Brendan said, I think that we have a lot coming down the pike with full-day kindergarten and things that we've committed to in terms of the referendum. I think that we can hopefully see what state aid comes back with, see if we can make adjustments, see that we can maintain staff, maybe give up, some with people retiring or giving up certain. Looking at the budget through different lenses, I think that we can find something that is, while still an increase in taxes, is within the cap and is not asking right now for the wish list, just getting done what needs to be done. We have made tremendous growth. I'm proud of this growth. I think that we are on the right track. These aren't going away. I just think now is not the time, since we have so much coming down the pike. That's just my opinion.
CJ?
Thank you. I wanted to say first, thank you for the presentation. That was an excellent way to clarify things. and to present things as the must-haves that have to get adjusted or treated versus the, the nice-to-haves. But that's just looking at it from a budgetary and legal perspective. I trust in your judgment to the extent that all these things, I think, are must-haves to keep our school functioning. I think Rob said it before, right? We don't want to run in place. What was your quote? Something like that. I don't think we want to be that way. I don't think we want to be on the back foot. I think it is a big ask of the community. But on the other hand, these are must-haves to keep our school functioning in the modern world, which is radically and rapidly changing, even beyond where we started all as board members. And the acceleration is only continuing. So I would say, yes, legally, we have a question about the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. We can articulate the questions. I think that's not on the docket tonight, right? But we would talk about articulation of any propositions for voting. So we would separate them carefully. I think with education, I think we should at least put it to the community to say, let's think best for our most important elements, which are our children, and let's go for it. I think we need to. So thank you.
Thank you. Julie?
So this has been a little bit difficult for me as a relatively new member of the finance and facility members. I want to share my perspective of someone who's come to this board after a long career in the Big Four and in financial services, and who thought they knew a lot more than they did in joining that. While I have significant experience here, learning the structure, constraints, and rules of the New Jersey School District budgeting has been a humbling and ongoing process, and I share the frustrations that our president expressed earlier, and I share them not only in terms of what I've learned here, but as a former practitioner who saw things and how they run very differently. Not that it's so efficient in the corporate world, it's not, but it's really it's just a whole other level of difficulty when the most basic things really just cannot be done because of the constraints, whether it's an accounting treatment or because of legal issues, whether they're state or federal, that are imposed upon us. And I want to say how impressed I am with our business administrator, Patty, who, and Dr. Gonzalez for hiring Patty, because I really, having spoken to other districts and having watched Patty in action, I really think we are very fortunate to have her doing this work and guiding us here. I've truly come to see you as one of our strongest assets, and I want to thank you, all three of you, Dr. Bolton, you as well, for a very impressive and strong presentation. I'm really proud of the work that we do on the Finance and Facilities Committee, and I'm grateful to be on it. And I've developed an incredible amount of respect for all of the people who work for these three, and all of the different people who work through the administration and everything that flows through it that we have to look at, and the commitment to our students and to the community. And as I've worked hard over these past months, I've explored whether or not there are opportunities to think differently about accounting classifications, fiscal options, understand the budget choices with our curriculum priorities, and I've really tried very hard, and I've seen so much effort from the administration as well, who are very thoughtful and careful and obviously much more knowledgeable because they've been doing this for a long time, and they've been very patient with me as I ask my endless questions, and I deeply appreciate that. But while I'm still learning, I really feel like I've exhausted all my questions here. I've really just exhausted every single option. Can we move this line? Can we do this? Can't we do this? Et cetera. I've seen it. I've seen what Patty's doing, and it's about as honest and straightforward, and now we're starting to chip away. And so the question is, can we afford at this point, as others have been saying, to do more, or is it time to pause, as Dr. Gonzalez said, and maybe just hold off until it's the right time? And so for those reasons, and with tremendous respect for everything that's gone into this work, and with great support for the types of programs that I do believe we should implement for our district, and with full support to curriculum, I do think that at this point we should pause, and we should not be moving forward with such an aggressive budget. I don't think that, given that the referendum bond has not hit the taxpayers yet, and also given where we are as a country financially, with the wild card that we have not overemphasized in this debate yet, which is state aid. And once we find out state aid, which the gods were good to us last year, I don't know if they'll be good to us twice. And that is a wild card that makes me very nervous that if they are not good to us, that not only may we increase it, but then we would see an even larger number, and that would put us in a very difficult position. So those are the reasons why I am in agreement with my colleagues here, and that's how I will be voting. But not without tremendous appreciation and respect for everything that has gone into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Kent?
Thank you. Does anyone else feel like you're on Shark Tank? And for that reason, I'm sorry. First, I want to say, I think we've made tremendous progress in the last few years under Dr. Gonzalez's leadership and his team's leadership. The programs we've introduced, every time I sit in a curriculum meeting, I think back, I wish my high school offered this program. I wish my high school did this, because we're doing wonderful things here. As I try to take everything into account and sitting on the finance committee meeting with Brendan and others, I'm trying to think of the perspective of the homeowners. They're also faced with multiple, rising healthcare costs, rising utility costs, rising expenses, and to ask them for another $785 or whatever the number was for a property tax increase this coming year, knowing that next year we're going to have property increases for the referendum bond payments. And then the year or two after that, we're going to ask them for more money for teachers to open up the new kindergarten classes. I just think it's time to take a pause, and if we can eliminate question 2 where possible, I think we should. Look at things that maybe are nice to have, but we don't have the luxury to do right now, like the third grade furniture. I think if we're just fiscally prudent right now and take a little pause, I think it would serve the district best. As Dr. Gonzalez said, these programs are on hold, but when the money's there, we can usually implement it at that time and move forward then. But I think it's time to just take a breath. Thank you.
Okay. Sonal?
While I think it's important to be fiscally responsible, and I listen to everything everybody's been talking about, I also feel like these are not, that additional spending proposal are not nice to haves, because it does include staff. And we have seen so much, we were in a situation where we had to make cuts, and then we were just trying to maintain, and we've finally gotten to a point where we're making progress, that I would hate to see us not be able to continue with that, especially because we have these programs ready to go. I noticed there were a few things that were on a cyclical cycle of the Chromebook refresh, the third grade furniture, even the groundskeepers for the fields. And if we start stopping those to fund other things, then we end up where we were a few years ago when there were so many issues with the fields, and our furniture and our tech is not necessarily up to date. So those are, reasons why I would say I think we should, as CJ put it, go for it and let's leave it up to the voters as an option.
Thank you, Sonal. Who else we got? Kristen? Yeah, sure.
Go.
All right. You get the question. You're in.
Okay, yeah, I
We'll-
have questions because I'm not, fiscally savvy like Kent. So, okay, I'm going to go back to the bar graph. Can we go back to the bar graph for a sec? Okay. Just one more time, Dr. Gonzalez or Patty, whoever, explain the blue. Okay, wait. If we don't do the red, right? If we don't ask for the red, that could potentially be, those are the new programs and potentially 8 teachers we have to cut?
Correct. So as we've currently built the budget,
Right.
that represents 8 existing teachers plus those additional program expansion teachers for G&T, money mindset.
Right.
As well as the part-time security officer.
Okay. And the blue is to keep things,
Everyone else and everything else in place,
except 8 teachers.
except 8 teachers.
Okay.
So and again, I just want to make sure that I don't want to suggest if you say no to the red, then 8 teachers are gone. No. If the board chooses to not go out for an additional funding proposal, then we are going to go back to the blue and say, what can we reduce further? So what of those things that we said we're going to continue doing, are we also going to pull out? And I'm just going to use the furniture as an example. Furniture is a few $100,000. That could equate to a few teachers.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then we go back and say, what are some of those additional items that we have to reassess further to put on hold for another day?
Okay.
So I don't want anyone to think, just saying, no, I just don't want anyone to think, 8 teachers are gone. No, we
That's-
will do everything we can to preserve the people who deliver instruction every day so that the experience of our students remain. What will be impacted are some of the resources that they have access to.
Can you give examples?
The furniture was the.
Oh,
probably
just the furniture?
That's an easy example.
Okay.
Easy way
Okay.
to use that as an example. Everything else, if you're going to take some of our subscriptions, so take the technology side. If you take some of those subscriptions, you would need half of that list in order to equate to some of the staffing positions that we're talking about. So you would eliminate a whole slew of resources in return for a salary and benefits. Or in the case of Dr. Bolton's proposals for professional development or curriculum writing, those budget lines aren't extraordinary. So you would have to get rid of all curriculum writing and development for the coming year in order to, again, just start working towards getting those 8 staff members. So this is where I would agree to Ms. Steinberg. This is a phenomenal business administrator who has her work cut out for her, but she's not alone. Dr. Weissman, Dr. Greer, myself, Dr. Bolton, along with Patty, will be meeting, and we'll be meeting with our school and department heads to figure out how to make that happen. That isn't a me conversation, that is a we conversation, because ultimately, the impact will be carried by the school and department leaders in order to make sure we continue to maintain our forward progress. So again, that is a long-winded response to your
No,
very
it was-
succinct answer.
I also want to note.
was perfect.
The
Thank
reason
you.
why the additional spending proposal always had staff in it is because it had to be recurring expenses, if you remember, in order for us to raise the tax increase permanently. So if I put in furniture, that's a 1 year, and then they would bounce the tax impact back down, the tax levy back down. So that's why, when we look at it this way, it's showing the 8 teachers, but as Dr. Gonzalez said, I will go back and go through the budget. As Leila said, reach out to the different organizations who's retiring, any kind of breakage. We will look at everything. We'll exhaust every avenue when we go through this.
And for that reason, because we have opted to budget the way that we have each year, because we keep looking not just at the current year, but at future year budgets, we find ourselves in a position, because we've been able to build our base with that recurring budgetary expense. That is why, while this is not ideal, it is way better than, unfortunately, some of my colleagues are finding themselves in. Because we have been able to invest in our schools, we have been able to invest in our budget in such a way that allows that investment to keep growing year after year. So that's, as the reason why Patty mentioned, that's the reason why those recurring costs are built into the additional funding proposal, so that next year, it then becomes part of that blue each year. Welcome.
Hi. Okay, I want to start by echoing Julie and saying that we are very lucky as a district to have Patty. I hear what Brendan, Kent, and Layla and Julie have said about being conservative regarding the budget, and I respect that. My concern in pausing is that with the referendum coming up and the needs for kindergarten, that pause could easily turn into a 3-year pause. And so I am definitely on the I'm definitely with Sonal and CJ in thinking that we need to move forward and put this out to the public and let them decide. I'd also like to remind everyone that this is a preliminary discussion. Thankfully, in years past, and maybe it'll continue in this way, we have found that this is worst-case scenario, and we typically are able to adjust. So maybe by the end of February, beginning of March, we're going to have a very different scenario, and we might feel very comfortable asking the community for that. So I don't want to spend too much time worrying, because when we worry, it sometimes is wasted energy. It might actually just work out. But to see us decide to squash the momentum is upsetting to me. I've been a resident here, student, parent, teacher, since I was 4 years old. The level of progress that Westfield has made in the last 4 years is basically unheard of. And so I would like to keep that momentum going. The other thing that I'll highlight is, in a totally separate scenario, I was out, in a public scenario, and I had a gifted teacher come up to me, seek me out, and just share all this information about the gifted program. The level of enthusiasm that she had about the work that they were doing and the way that the district was supporting their ability to research and restructure the program, it was unbelievable. We don't want to squash that. We don't want to make them do all this work and then wait 3 years or 1 year, whatever it is. We want to ride on that enthusiasm and get this going for our kids. So for me, I'm 100%. Let's see what the community says.
Okay. I don't know if that helped. No, I guess my question is more, I guess, for the team. So, I mean, the boards, we certainly have a mindset. I don't think there's anyone here who would disagree that we'd want to keep the momentum. The question is whether it's the time to do it. And I think you're catching that same split, which is probably the exact same discussions you're having internally, that the board is here. So if that helps anything, at least, that you're not nuts, that the struggles are real in figuring this out. I guess my question now is right back is, based on what you've heard, do you think you have enough to sort of start rethinking things? I think the one thing I guess I would add, and maybe just if there's some nods on this, what I'm hearing is a lot of support for academic momentum. Like we'd love to see the gifted programs move. We'd love to see some of the programmatic stuff, almost before anything else. If we had our druthers of some sorts. And you use the furniture as an example, right? And I don't want to keep beating up on third grade furniture, but if there's and I don't know what else is there that's around there, but I think one of the things to look at, and again, tell me if I'm crazy or if I'm misrepresenting anything anyone's saying, if there is a way to kind of relook at some of that structural stuff, right? Like, that was a very easy one-to-one, right? The furniture means 3 positions are not going to be in an additional funding proposal. Let's put it that way. I think that's more fair. If there's stuff like that in the budget that I think, we can share with the board to sort of help recover some of the more programmatic stuff, I think regardless of where you stood, if you were iffy about going out to the public for this or not, I think that would probably be stuff that many of our board members would like to see. I mean, if you could tell me I could get 2 additional gifted teachers to expand the program, and there's a different offset for that to put it in the budget, I think I might think a little bit differently for it. That would keep the tax, keep the tax number down, but also keep the programs moving forward. I think I don't know if I'm saying it well, but I think that's at least a mindset that, yeah, CJ, sorry.
No, and I, Rob, I respect how you're kind of trying to, coalesce all of our statements into a kind of a guiding principle. And I agree with you that academics are really important here, but I'm looking at this again more holistically. This is like the broken window theory, right? Like if you have one broken window in a neighborhood, then everything goes to hell. Not that it's the same exact thing, but even something like furniture, having the kids have a high quality of life inside the classroom is important, right, for them to be able to learn. So, again, we're beating up on the furniture here, but my theory is we can't, because as Kristen had said, right, like a 1-year pause can become a 3-year pause, and then we're just a community that pauses all the time. And do we want that? And so my take, at least, it may be different from Sonal and Kristen, but my take is this is more than just academics. we've created a profound institution here, a palace of sorts. We want to keep building it up, right? We don't want it to fall into a decrepitude, even on the small things. And again, if the voters say no, the voters say no. But at least let's try to articulate this in a nice way. Let's try to get the messaging out so that people can see that this is where it's at, right? Our community's about this as a whole. But anyway, that's just my one clarification as to what you said.
No, I think that's
Yep.
fine. Leila, sorry.
So, I absolutely hear what you're saying. I think this is the reason why we're having this discussion. Ultimately, there's no harm in sending this out to the community and having them be the voice of the community. The problem is that, let's say this is something you just can't swing, and now here we are tacking on and tacking on. And I just think we need to be cognizant of the fact that there are some things we don't have control of, and this is not, to me, this is not a huge amount of difference. This small question, we're not even asking for that much, but who am I to say that for somebody else's family? So that's where I have the hard time. Like, yes, it's true, they get a vote, but majority rules, so then their voice is silenced. That's just devil's advocate. I mean, that's, the other part is, the curriculum is ready to go. Like, I took ASL, and sign language was the best class. It was the class I still use to this day in my career. So, I'm excited about a lot of these things. I'd like to see, and I know that this defeats the purpose of what Brendan was saying, I'd like to see what the options are when we see what the state aid is, when we see, what's the word, arbitration, what was the word, Brendan? Attrition. What? Attrition, that's not a real word. I'd like to see that and, get some more information. I know that's going to happen, but then it doesn't give you a ton of time to plan, and I know that that's not fair. So it's a hard conversation.
So? Then Ken.
I agree, Leila, that we can't make that financial decision for anybody else in this town. So as the board and as board members, we do have to put forth the best plan of what we think should happen for this district, and that would include the additional spending proposal, and then we let individual homeowners, taxpayers, make that decision whether they can swing it financially themselves, but we put forth what we think should happen in the best interest of our students.
Kent, then Brendan.
I think it'd be good if we could project it out over a few years. So we're saying next year their tax increase will be $745. I think homeowners would want to know, well, what's the following year with the bond referendum tax increase going to look like? And then 2 years down the line, what's the referendum tax increase going to look like? Because now we have to hire teachers. So it's not just looking at year by year. Yeah, this year might be great for $700, but what's next year's tax increase going to be on top of the 2% cap and everything else? And then now we got teachers coming on and still paying off the bond for the referendum. I think if we could have a 3 or 4 year look out of what we think the tax increase will be year over year, would be useful and enlightening for the district and the public.
And just to respond to that, I think you just pointed it out. Each year it's going to increase. So what we see this year just represents the base budget plus an additional funding proposal, but that would be in addition to a bond debt service payment that would have to be made the following year. So it is going to increase for the next couple of years. So, and I appreciate this conversation happening in the way that it is, because I want everyone in the public watching to understand how difficult this is, and how we are not taking this lightly, and how when we look at Ben and his fellow students, we want to give them the best opportunity possible, but we also recognize we have to do so in a fiscally responsible way. And we have, up to this point, always looked forward and looked ahead in order to help inform those decisions. And I would not ever want to sugarcoat and suggest that, no, it's going to be better next year. No, it's going to be more each year for the next few years as we reach the goal of being able to implement full-day kindergarten as well as the other programs that are included as part of the referendum. what I, if I may, what I'm hearing from everyone is echoing that we'd love to have it all. There are individuals who are suggesting, let's give the voters the opportunity to weigh in. And then there is interest in just keeping the base budget to be able to maintain our current offerings. We've structured the proposal as you see it here so that our 8 current teachers and the additional staff are in one. But there is stuff in the base budget that we may have to cut if we were to move the 8 teachers in there. So what we'd like to do is just confirm that our marching orders, based upon, again, this isn't a vote, this isn't a motion, no one's approving anything, but what I hear is the majority are interested in trying to make sure our base budget covers as much as possible. Because once again, our base budget, this board has the authority to approve without a vote.
When you say our base budget.
The blue.
Yeah, the blue. When you say our base budget and marching orders, so to speak, are you able to do that with the 8 teachers and come back to us?
That's what I'm trying to get from, if the charges to us is try to push the 8 teachers in there, see what can be done meaningfully, and then see what else may then get pushed out, then what I've heard from a few folks is that if there's anything above that, including those additional staff, as much as we'd like to include them, at a minimum, let's keep what we currently have in the base budget. Any of the extra, it sounds like there is an interest among some members of the board to consider putting that as an additional funding proposal. So we don't currently offer the G&T money mindset assistant principal or part-time security. But if that is something that we put to the taxpayers, they can vote for it, or against it. If it goes forward, then it continues. If it goes down, then it's no different than if we didn't even include it in the budget in the first place. So that's one option. But I don't want to underestimate what Kent said, which is, but if we keep asking the public, is that going to at some point impact our future requests? So I just wanted to sort of try and echo what we've been hearing as well.
All right, Brendan, then Julie, then Kristen.
Yep.
Dr. Gonzalez just sort of hit on my point right here. We've asked every year for several years for more. The town has supported us because we truly needed it. Things were, we had to cut 32 staff members. We hadn't been able to maintain the buildings in a state of good repair. Over 3 or 4 budget cycles, the town has given us what we need to bring our operating budget up to close to where it should be. We're not fully there yet. And they've also approved a $250 million construction bond. If we keep asking, at some point they're going to say no. Whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whether it's 5 years from now, at some point we're going to hit a breaking point. The town is going to vote no on a budget. I don't want that first no to be when we've asked and asked and asked, and now we have a brand new building that we can't staff with kindergarten teachers. The worst case scenario is that we have new classrooms that we can't staff because the town says we're done.
Julie, then Kristen.
So, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for framing it that way. This is a very difficult and painful conversation, and Kristen, Sonal, and CJ, I do share your angst, and Kristen in particular, I really did hear what you were saying, and I appreciate how graciously you expressed it, and thank you for hearing what we were saying as well. I am very anxious, not anxious, but I'm concerned, right, might be a better way to say this, because it's not just the red that's got me concerned, it's also the blue. We are not only constrained by structural issues in terms of fiscal and accounting things that are out of our control in terms of how things are structured, that we, no matter how hard we try, it's a square peg, round hole to make things the way that we'd like to. But even if we just stick to the blue, let's say, even if we just go to the voters, we're still asking for 6.57% more, and that is a lot of money. And I think that when you do a trend analysis, to Kent's point, it's increasing no matter what, even if we don't include the red. And that does, to Layla's point, at some point, the bucket's going to drop. And I worry about that. I do, not only as a taxpayer myself, but also because we truly need the support of the public in order for us to be successful as a board. And it's not just whether or not we don't get the vote. I mean, that would be discouraging, obviously, if we don't get the vote. I would not be happy about that. And I'm going to support whatever we as a board decide to do. And I'm going to support Dr. Gonzalez in whatever he directs us to do, because I believe in Dr. Gonzalez and I believe in this board. But I am worried as we proceed in these deliberations that we are not looking at that. It's not a small thing. So I just want to be super clear. I'm not just concerned about the red. I am concerned about the blue. And it's not just, I realize it's not just the structural things. It's healthcare's out of control. I'm not just seeing it here. I'm seeing it on our other board as well. And I'm seeing that no matter how many times people change over, it's all across New Jersey. I'm also seeing how far ahead we are as a district compared to other districts due to the foresight of this team for where we are. But I just want to make sure that we continue not only to grow as a district, not just in terms of our curriculum and our facilities and our abilities, but also to maintain the goodwill of the people who support us and our students. And so I just want to put that out there as just another consideration, while also completely concurring with everything that my other colleagues have said and not diminishing the weight of their statements.
Just how realistic is it, if it's going to keep going up for the next couple of years, that if we put this pause this year, that we could incorporate the gifted and the other curriculum updates next year? Like, if next year's going to be more expensive.
So I think the unknown variables, the known variables are the bond repayment. That will be coming due in the coming year. What we don't know is the state of healthcare increases next year. We don't know the state of state aid. We don't know the state of state aid this year. Again, to the point that was made, if state aid comes in flat, as we've currently budgeted for, then our scenarios are viable. If state aid comes in lower, which is possible when you have a new governor come in who may have the desire to try to be fiscally conservative during her first term, again, or first year, that's possible, and I'm not presupposing any of that. Or, on the other hand, say, no, let's give our schools more. And if we get more, then what that does is allow us to maybe reduce the blue, because now we have to rely less on the taxpayers and now can offset some of that by the state aid. So for next year, those same variables are at play, but with healthcare really being the biggest variable. If healthcare is as crazy as it is next year as it is this year, then we are going to find ourselves, facing even in more dire circumstances. So it's really hard to answer that more definitively than that.
I think that helps, though. So it's not impossible is the answer, but it'll depend on all those variables. But next year, there's a known obstacle of additional money because of the bonds, and then the following year, there's known money because of kindergarten.
Yeah, the most important thing to keep in mind is in the spring of 2028, when we're preparing to open for September, as Brendan pointed out, we need to make sure that there are bodies ready to welcome our students so that they can be educated at a full day level. It's a requirement, because our community is going to then base their their fall based upon that. If we have families who are going to assume that they're going to have full-day kindergarten, who then don't enroll in half-day, in full-day programs elsewhere, or we don't have a community because we're going to be working with our early childhood centers who currently offer full-day programs to let them know, hey, we're ready to open, and they're going to have to make decisions structurally in order to be able to ensure the longevity of their organizations. And as a result, if they don't staff their schools to be able to account for full-day kindergarten because they assumed we were, and then we can't do it because we don't have staff, again, the problem continues to compound. So all of that is to say that spring of '28 is going to be a significant investment by this board and this community in order to fulfill that promise of full-day kindergarten in September.
So I want to, let me get right to you. There's one thing I just want to, I think there's a good time to take a slight breath because there's a couple of things that have just come out with this that I just want to make sure the public's understanding. So I know we are not the Olympics or mostly college basketball, so I don't want to pretend there is a huge following on YouTube or anywhere else for these meetings. But this is, the discussion that we're having here is exactly the discussion that our public needs to see. And I do hope that as news of the meeting gets out, more folks are going to be able to look at this and see the discussion and the debate that's going on here, because it's a great one, and I think it's going to show the public exactly where our board is. That we may have different opinions, perspectives, where it wants to go, but the idea is what's going to benefit the district and the taxpayer kind of at the same time. Another thing I want to make sure the public understands is something that sort of hit me as we were talking about this. When we're talking about new programs, and I don't want to say the past was or wasn't like this or not, but there should be a level of confidence in the public, as there is now in the board with our leadership here, that if something is going to be put on a list, if there are gifted teachers or money mindset teachers or things of that nature that are going to be put before the public, this district is not going to put the cart before the horse here. What's being presented to the board are programs ready to go, not aspirations, give me your money now and I'll tell you how it works out later, right? And I think that is, I am sure other districts do not operate that way, all right? But I think our public needs to be confident that whether, again, we'll see where it comes out, there isn't a vote today, but whether we put this stuff on the ballot or not for a vote, our public can be very confident that if the public does commit dollars to something, we're going to be ready to do it. And we're going to be ready to do it as best as we're possibly going to do it. My last thing, and I'll jump to Kent, is, I want to point out the blue, sort of the big blue elephant in the room. Like, I know a lot of our budget is focused on the salaries and benefits, and we're talking about healthcare. So the easy response to that sometimes is, well, so just get rid of a couple teachers. So just cut the benefits. So just do this, right? As someone who's been involved in the negotiations with our bargaining units, I want to make sure that we're not passing the struggles that aren't necessarily of our own making onto the very teachers and staff and bargaining units who are the people who are making sure that all these things happen and happen well, right? I can tell you, having looked at some of the increases that we've seen, some of the contracts that we've seen, I did a little quick research. I think the New Jersey rate of inflation is like 3.4%, 3.5%. That's not what we're looking at for long-term staff increases at all. In many cases, it's tied with that or low. But for a couple of adjustments that may be necessary here and there. So I also want the public to understand that while we're talking about these things, we're also not only just as a board ensuring that these expenditures stay under control, but we're getting that level of cooperation from our bargaining units as well. They are not walking into here, stomping their feet and holding their breath and making demands that they know are unrealistic. They're negotiating well for their members. I don't want to suggest otherwise, right? But we do have a group, we have a district that's a team in all senses of the word, understanding where kind of the budget is. So I think it's an important mention for the public as they think about this. And look, we're not done, right? I know Ken, I'm just going to jump in, but now would be a great time, if you're in the public watching this, to sort of think this through, and feel free to email any one of us about your thoughts. I'm not afraid in many ways to go to a vote, because I've always seen these votes as a public partnership, and sometimes the partners say yes, and sometimes the partners say no. And I don't know that it's doom and gloom if they say no. They may just say, hey, that's it. It doesn't mean it's a statement that we don't trust you guys going forward ever and ever again. We've been lucky so far that that's where we've been at, and I don't know that I don't want to necessarily risk a no either. I'm not saying that's where my brain is. But I want to frame that for the public as when we go to a question, it isn't all or nothing. It's, we really, really want your opinion on this. And like I said, sometimes the opinion is going to be in our favor and sometimes it's not. But I just want to make sure the public sees that. There isn't a whole lot of different ways other than going to a vote at times where you can really get that out. But I'm so sorry, Kent, and then Kristen, yeah.
Yeah, real quick. Patty, can you refresh our memory? How many teachers were we going to have, and what was the impact to the town when we for kindergarten?
For
remember?
kindergarten, the total cost was about $4 million we were looking at, but we're still assessing that.
No,
We
right,
still have to
right,
look
but I
through
just
different
looking
things.
for ballpark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was but again, we have to assess through HVAC
Yep.
and custodial staff, like now that we have the actual size of the buildings and the additions, we have to look at all that once more again.
And
It was somewhere in that
teachers
ballpark.
roughly?
I forget how many,
Yeah, I
because we
forget
have
too.
like five, it's
I'm just trying to
maybe
find it.
about 20 teachers.
Thanks.
Yeah, because we have some now at Lincoln, but we have to add on to that.
Thanks.
I think Kristen, and then Kristen, then let's talk. We might have exhausted the discussion at this point, but Kristen, go ahead.
I just want to encourage the board, like Rob said, to remember that the public is typically very supportive of our education. We have an amazing record in Westfield. I don't think we've had very many budgets voted down. We voted for my entire childhood. And so this community supports education. If for some reason we put the question out and they say no, I don't think it's fair for the board to assume that that would then result in them saying no to kindergarten. Our community supported that vote, and it was supported by a pretty good margin. So I would just ask that in making this decision about this question, we don't put assumptions into further future votes. It's unnecessary.
So I think that helped, but I will kick it back to our
Yeah, so-
presenters and
So at this
see where we go
point,
from there.
I'm going to ask, this is a non-binding request, though. This is not an official board vote. It is a straw poll so that we have specific guidance. So if I could just, by a show of hands, get a sense of who is in favor of an additional funding proposal. That's probably the easiest question to ask.
So it's who's in favor of the red,
Of
right?
going to a vote with an additional funding proposal.
Or I should say adding, let me not say in favor of the red, adding the red as an additional funding, 'cause I think we all would love to see the red. Okay.
Correct.
Question was, you mean that as an amount, not specific items? Okay, so hands up if you would include the red going forward for a proposal. All right.
Okay, we have our direction.
With that, if things change, I don't know that anybody here would not rush back to have the red back in, let's put it that way. I'm sorry, Mary?
I'm still concerned about what is going to happen with the money from the state and things like that. That
Right.
would, So I know we have, that's March 12th you put on the slides, correct?
The reason why we need that level of guidance is because the next few weeks are going to require a lot of work to get to that point. So in order to build a budget for next year that now subsumes all of that under just a tax levy, adjusted tax levy cap, is going to take some time and some decision-making. But it also is going to include the notification by the state in mid-March of what state aid will look like. And again, at that moment, we'll find out if we have the same, we have less, or we have more. If we have the same, then the work of those few weeks will have been well spent. If we have less, then in a 2 to 3 day turnaround, business day turnaround, we have to figure out how to then balance the budget to get whatever the offset is accounted for into a proposal that is presented to you in March for that preliminary vote. So it's a tight timeline. What we have on the screen now are the adjustments that need to be made. So we know that by March 12th, March 10th is when the budget address is tentatively scheduled to take place. 2 days later is when we would expect state aid to be released. So that already exceeds our original March 3rd board meeting. So we already have to push that date to after March 12th, which brings us to the following week. And what we'd also need tonight to find out is the board's availability for a March 16th, which is Monday, or a March 17th board meeting. So March 16th or 17th, that would be what we would need in order to be able to then have the official preliminary budget approved so that we could submit it to the county. After that, then later on, actually, that slide has to be, we have to adjust that slide. Then we would look to have our final budget hearing in early April. It says March, but that would actually be early April.
April 7th.
So April 7th would be the date of the final budget hearing in order to meet the statutory timelines. So again, the first date that we have to secure is the preliminary budget hearing of March 16th or 17th. And then we've established April 7th as the final budget hearing in order to approve the final budget, because unfortunately, spring break is making it impossible for us to schedule it any other way. And then the budget, the regular meeting in April would take place on April 14th.
But April 7th would be it.
Yes.
There's no,
Okay, I think,
so that would include, the April 7th would be the final vote on the budget. There would be nothing on the ballot. That's why it can be April 7th, because there'd be nothing on the ballot as far as the budget.
So we don't need to meet the 14th? It's
No,
this,
we have to meet on March 16th or 17th.
right?
And
Then
then,
we're moving, then there's gonna be a meeting on April 7th
And on the 14th.
and on the
Okay.
14th. The
And also-
21st, we're gonna get rid of because that's election day.
Okay. And just to confirm again, so if we're not, if at this point we are not going to offer an additional question for the voters at this point, but at this point, administration is going to look to keep those 8 current staff members in the blue.
that's what we are going to focus on between now and early March.
there was an informal discussion while you were talking. I think we can get everyone here. There's a good level of availability for both dates, but I know we can get everyone here on the 16th.
16th.
That's a unanimous yes.
Okay, so we
Really?
will
You didn't ask me.
update this slide, and we'll update the calendar to reflect our next board meeting will be on March 16th for the preliminary budget hearing. Our final budget hearing will take place on April 7th, and then that will conclude the budget development process for the 26-27 year. And then we are also going to be revising our regular April board meeting from the 21st to the 14th because of the school board election on the 21st. So what that means is we are moving from an April budget and board vote to just an April board vote.
I'm
Yes.
assuming also that the F&F meeting will move accordingly, and also that the voter candidate night will move accordingly as well. Is that correct?
Yes, we will
Yeah.
work with the other organizations to notify them of
And
that.
we'd probably adjust the committee schedule as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
I think we're done.
Wait,
Wait.
I just want to make sure the March 16th is replacing the March 24th. We're moving the date,
yes,
right, not in addition.
yes. So
We're
March,
moving the 3rd to the 16th, and we're moving the 24th to April 7th.
yep.
I'll put it in email.
Yes.
Also maybe save the month, 3rd, 16th.
Yeah, I know, there's a lot of.
I think I'm not even going to ask if everyone's good because we're going to come up with something else. So thank you for the great discussion. If anyone ever wants to see how sausage is made, you got it. And thank you all for the presentation and for the time that goes into the budget, that goes into the planning, and for giving us all these options. I think the report by district administration is good. Yes? Or do you have anything else?
If you'd like, I could read a couple pages out of the telephone book. Is that still a thing?
That would be good.
Is the telephone book still a thing?
It might be. Hey, look, I'm talking about the Flintstones and the Jetsons. So believe me, if your telephone books are even more recent than that. So I think we're there for Ben for his high school student representative report. Ben, I don't know how you're going to follow this, but take your shot, my friend.
While January was filled with the stress of midterms, February marks the official start of the second half of the school year and many exciting new events in the WHS community. First, though, some logistical updates. Parking privileges were recently assigned through WHS's random parking lottery system. Additionally, flex periods were restructured by administration to resolve previous attendance discrepancies. Rather than having a single teacher manage attendance for a single flex location, students will be divided into smaller groups to ensure more accurate attendance taking. Just this past Saturday, the WHS Choir Department held their annual Night of Love Songs event. Students performed a curated selection of romantic favorites, modern as well as classics, soloing, in duets, and in small groups. Love, it can definitely be said, was hitting all the right notes. Yesterday, student interns for the local Downtown Westfield Corporation gave their final presentation to the organization's executive board, marking the end of their time as interns there. These were students that applied and were selected from the SGA board and the AP government classes. Through attending board and committee meetings at the Downtown Westfield Corporation and helping out with the organization's various initiatives, such as the new Downtown Westfield gift card program, they gained valuable experience into the inner workings of local governance. It was extremely rewarding for them to see how the downtown they've grown up in operates from the inside, and for the program being newly established in the high school, it was a success. Also, yesterday, the Wind Ensemble's children's concert featuring Peter and the Wolf, performed by the high school wind ensemble, occurred, and it was narrated by the elementary music school teacher, Mr. Trevor Sindorf. The concert was designed to introduce young audiences to the instruments of the orchestra and was even nationally recognized with the Advocacy in Action Award for Music for All, once again a testament to Westfield's vibrant and dedicated performing arts programs. Tomorrow marks WHS's first annual electives fair. Spearheaded by the counseling department, it is an opportunity to view the wide range of electives WHS offers, helping students prepare for their upcoming course selections and scheduling meetings. David Good, a Yanomami American who has had a long-standing relationship with the WHS Humanities program as a frequent guest speaker, is previewing his new documentary about his indigenous Yanomami mother on Thursday, February 26th in the Media Center. This critically recognized film, Wayumi, is a great opportunity for students to immerse themselves in Good's powerful story of identity and discovery. Finally, the SGA, in partnership with the Community Service Club, is proud to officially announce their annual Community Service Week, running from March 23rd to the 27th. This impactful week will culminate on March 27th with an activity period. While students and staff compete in a basketball game in the gymnasium, students in their classrooms will be packing toiletry kits and writing cards to be sent to veterans and healthcare workers. Included will also be a school-wide Spirit Week, as well as a book drive for the Westfield Memorial Library. Book donations that week will be collected in a drop-off bin at the school's main entrance. And, as of right now, the SGA is already seeking out community support to clear their Amazon wish list for the toiletry and card supplies. The Community Service Club also will be looking for volunteers to quote-unquote adopt a family by collecting toiletries and cleaning supplies to help families in need. All links to sign up can be found on WHS's weekly newsletter or in parent inboxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Before we move to committee reports, there's something I wanted to make mention of before we get too far past the superintendent's report. So Dr. Gonzalez addressed the security concerns that we had here at the school today, and I think it would be very appropriate from a board perspective to add our thanks to the folks who did a great job maintaining student safety and doing what we're doing. And I just categorically, we have, in a situation like this, there are a ton of unknowns. And sometimes people can kind of brush away some of those things as well. It's 99% probably nothing, but could be 1%, whatever. The consequences of that 1% are significant, which is why we have to take the steps that we take. And while we're doing that, it's our law enforcement professionals, both in Westfield, our school resource officers, one of whom we have here today, and law enforcement from other town all came together to ensure that our students were safe. And while we now know, at least have some semblance of an idea that things are safe now, when law enforcement comes into a building like this and they open a classroom door or turn a hallway, they don't have any idea what's going to be behind that door or around that hallway. And these are decisions that might not come home decisions. But they do it, and they do it for our students, putting themselves in harm's way before them. So I have to start with a thank you there for the people who come in and do not leave away. In many ways, our teachers put themselves in a similar risk, right? They're here managing those same students. They're here managing those same students under a lockdown, handling mental health, handling medical issues, all kinds of things like that. And they're not terribly far off from not knowing what's going to happen when they open a door or turn a hallway. So I have to thank all of our teachers because we did have some level of lockdown at all of our schools, but especially here at the high school for what they had to face. Another thanks to our district representatives, right? They're not going to thank themselves, but all of this planning comes with a lot of work. And while we would always hope never to have to test these programs, we have unfortunately over the last now 2 years had to, which I'll talk about in a second. But if not for that level of organization and support and planning ahead, we wouldn't have the successes that we have over here. I love that our plans are successful. I'd really prefer not to have to test them ever again. Thank you to our parents as well. I want to echo that from Dr. Gonzalez. It is not easy to sit there and wonder what is going on in a building that you have no control over. I would love to tell you that all 9 of us as board members knew every single thing that was going on while it was happening, but the fact is we are not. And we do not, because we need to let the professionals handle their business. And the last thing we need to do is put someone at risk because they have to write an email or make a phone call to any one of us. So very much as parents, we're all sitting here, many of us do have kids in the high school, so many of us are sitting here with the same concerns and worries. And I want to thank our parents for sticking with the program and putting the faith in, and the same for our students as well. I mean, y'all lived it. Okay, and there was nothing good or positive or fun about what was going on today. There was nothing easy to digest about what was going on today, but our students got with the program, handled themselves, I mean, almost unequivocally very well. And I guess the last point I want to make is Dr. Gonzalez said the district certainly has its discipline rules and is cooperating with law enforcement. I want to be as clear as I can that I think the board very much supports that very unequivocal and tough stance regarding whoever decided this would be a good idea, and put their fellow classmates and people whoever it was, whether they were here now or in the past, right? At some point, whoever did it is looking around and calling people around there their friends. If this is what you think treating your friends is like, you really got to rethink where you are in life. I don't want to see this again. I want to see this again here. None of the members of this board want to see it again here. And I don't know that there's a stronger way to state it than to say whatever the district needs to do to make sure that an example is set and that this does not happen again. I'm fairly certain most of the members of this board would support that. And I think most of the members of this community would as well. So thank you for the good work. Thank you to the whole group for what we're doing. And for those who think this is a thing, I'd rather have a far more fun as an annual thing and not this. And again, Dr. Gonzalez in particular was here today, as he mentioned, so we got to see all of this firsthand. I want to thank you for being on site to manage it. But again, whoever you are and whoever thinks that this is a great idea, knock it off. All right, this is a school, this is a district, this is a community. All right, start treating it like that. All right, and with that, You know that was unscripted. Let's move to board committee reports. We'll start with curriculum instruction and programs. Kristen.
Good evening. SIP met on February 2nd and received a presentation from Liz D'Alessandro, Katie Neshawat, and Liz Riley, focused on the district's continued evolution toward a more robust, data-driven instructional model. The presentation highlighted the implementation and refinement of the district's multi-tiered system of support, MTSS, and the development of the structured data teams to improve student outcomes. The presenters reviewed the district-wide MTSS framework, which serves as a foundation for ensuring equitable access to academic support across all schools. Grounded in research-based practices, the MTSS model provides a consistent structure for identifying and responding to student needs through 3 tiers. Tier 1, core classroom instruction for all students. Tier 2, targeted small group interventions for some students. And Tier 3 is individualized intensive interventions for a smaller number of students with significant learning needs. A key focus of the presentation was the growing role of the formal data team meetings in shaping instructional practice. These structured meetings bring together administrators, general and special education teachers, interventionists, and counselors to engage in evidence-based analysis of student data. Rather than relying on anecdotal observations, teams review beginning-of-the-year plans and flagged students to determine the effectiveness of current instructional strategies and identify necessary adjustments. Case examples illustrated how specific data points such as literacy fluency, measures, or targeted math skill proficiency are used to inform lesson planning, instructional grouping, and intervention decisions. Looking ahead, the presenters outlined several next steps to sustain and strengthen this work. These include continued PD to build the capacity of the data teams, deeper use of data to inform targeted lesson plan and student grouping, exploration of a new mathematics diagnostic assessment to further individualize support, and a review of the instructional resources to ensure alignment with identified student needs. And then the SIP's next meeting is scheduled for March 9th.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, finance and facilities. Brendan?
We talked about the budget. I'm done.
Fair enough. Also concise. I will take it. Finally, policies, personnel, and governance. I think, Mary?
Okay, thanks. The Policy, Personnel, and Governance Committee met on February 5th from 4 to 5:30 we went to Roosevelt in the newly designed Fab Lab. It was very impressive. It was myself, Sonal Patel, Brendan Galligan, and Layla Morelli, along with Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Greer. The committee began with a discussion on the annual non-tenure review process. Dr. Greer presented the annual review of non-tenured employees, including the administrative feedback that is provided through this process. The committee noted that this review is for information only and that there is no action before the board at this time. The annual staff appointment occurs each spring in advance of May 15th. All staff to be recommended for renewal will appear on the board agenda. Any employee who will not be renewed will not appear on the list. The committee then discussed ongoing policy work. While no policies were reviewed at this meeting, the superintendent shared that an administrative working group is actively examining the student attendance and student code of conduct policies and regulations, with the expectation that proposed revisions will be brought forward for committee consideration in the near future. The committee also continued to review its review of the 2027, 2028, and 2028, 2029 school calendars, following up on last month's discussion. Drafts under development include an option for students to begin school the day after Labor Day for each of the 2 years reviewed. The committee discussed how the scheduling of holidays and cultural observances can create challenges, particularly when observances overlap with scheduled staff professional development days or occur intermittently during the week, disrupting instructional continuity. As next steps, the committee will review calendar options with the administration and the association to better understand the impact on students and staff looking at historical attendance data. The committee also recommends exploring options to end the school year as early as possible. The committee noted the importance of considering the most recently added observances and affirmed that instructional considerations would be made whenever school may be in session on cultural or religious observances. The committee concluded with a review of the district's budget status in light of the most recent draft. Significant time was devoted to the impact of healthcare costs. I feel like I don't have to read this over again. Increases and the constraints these increases place on the district's ability to contain costs while maintaining progress and continuing to expand programs. The discussion also considered future budgetary needs associated with staffing for full-day kindergarten and other programs expected to come online over the next few budget years. Due to the priority of the aforementioned time-sensitive budget discussion, we were unable to continue work on an action plan for the board goals. This remains on the agenda and will be addressed at a future meeting. The next Policy, Personnel, and Governance Committee meeting is scheduled for March 19th, 2026.
I have a question.
Sure.
So first of all, thank you guys for all the hard work you guys are doing. I see there's a lot on the agenda, and I know there's a lot going on. I feel like we should get together in FNF to discuss all the budgeting stuff that's going on between, and look at both sides of the issue through each other's eyes. I did see also that, that the board goals for the second month weren't done, and I know it's because there's just a lot on the agenda right now. And I'm a little worried because of, timing going by, and also that next month and the month after, we're going to be crushed by budget, and it's going to be not that different from this meeting in terms of the, us to being subsumed in discussions about it. So I just wanted to ask if there's any assistance, or if there's a need for additional committee assistance from either additional people or for an additional committee to look at this stuff, because it's an important thing that we want to get done by the end of the year. The end of the year is going to be in April when the election comes. So I'm just kind of looking at that, and I'm personally happy to help. I don't know who else is, but I just want to put it out there that I know it's an important thing that needs to get done. If this is not meant as a criticism, it is meant as an offer to genuinely try to move this forward in any way that you can, understanding that there's just so much going on right now, and knowing that we are just not going to have time in the next two board meetings to discuss this fully in a way where everybody gets a chance to give their input to whatever rises in that very important document. So I just wanted to ask if that's something you guys would consider. I know it's your committee, but I just think it's a board document, and I just wanted to see if there's any openness to considering that.
Thank you. It's noted. I'll bring it to the committee.
Yeah.
Can I have a second? Oh, we're not
You
voting
don't have to vote yet. That's
Okay. I'm way ahead of you.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get you there. That's good. No, I think it's a sound point. I think it's probably worth a discussion even a little bit sooner. Maybe among the chairs, myself and Dr. Gonzalez, about maybe a special meeting you're adding to it to see. And I definitely appreciate not just the ask, but as well as the offer for action, because it helps. But let's see what we can do to push it along. I don't disagree with you at all. I think we need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time on that one. All right, before I come up with any more sayings. Now it is time to recognize the public. During this portion of the meeting, district residents and staff are invited to address the Board of Education on agenda action items only. These are the items identified in color on the board agenda at sections 10 to 14. There will be a second public comment period at the end of the meeting for items not up for board action today. As a courtesy, please allow current students and staff of the Westfield Public Schools to speak first. The board requests that individuals sign in and state their name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable for the record, the specific action items they're commenting on, and ask that all remarks be directed to the board president or designee and not to individual members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate the participant's statement. Although the board may not respond to items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. I said that part already. Sorry about that. Continued disruptions may result in removal from the meeting or adjournment of the meeting. Each speaker's statement will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. Sorry about that. All right, seeing no member of the public rushing up, I will close public comment and move to board action. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 20th, 2026 regular board meeting. Do I have a second? Kent, you can do this by voice vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? CJ and Leila on abstentions. Other than that, we pass. Move to governance. Kristen?
Nope. I'd like to ask the board to approve A under governance. Can I have a second? Mary? Can we vote?
Rob Bonaccia,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas,
No.
Leila Morelli, Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg.
No.
I'm sorry, what?
No.
Okay. Mary Wickens.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries, and we'll move to personnel. I think that's Mary.
Thank you. I'd like to move items A to R under the personnel section of tonight's agenda. Is there a second? Sonal. She's quick, like Kent tonight. Okay. Dr. Gonzalez, do you have any words for us this evening?
I do. I have 3
Fabulous.
retirements that I'd like to celebrate this evening, beginning with Jennifer Buccino, phys ed teacher from Tamaulipas. She has dedicated 38 years to teaching physical education, with 37 of those years in the Westfield Public School District. She began her career at McKinley and Westfield High School, but spent the past 35 years at Tamaulipas, a place she lovingly described as her second home, a warm blanket on a cold night. Jennifer led 35 field days and countless Halloween hoedowns, creating joyful memories for generations of Tamaulipas students. She also made a tremendous impact as a coach, working with thousands of student athletes in girls' outdoor track, indoor track, and cross country from the late 1980s through 2024. One of the most cherished moments of her career came in 2002 when she served as an honorary torchbearer for the Salt Lake City Olympics, an honor made possible by a former WHS student athlete. Jennifer leaves Westfield with a full heart and a lifetime of memories. Her energy, spirit, and dedication will be deeply missed. Karen Geddes. Karen Geddes has been a beloved member of the Washington school community for the past 25 years, where her impact has been both joyful and lasting. Known for her energy and creativity, Karen danced her way through 25 Washington school shows, often performing in all 3 weekend performances. A highlight of her classroom each year was the Women's Tea, where students presented research on famous women to special guests, including the Commissioner of Education. Karen also expanded her impact beyond the classroom in 2019, using her master's in counseling to lead character education lessons, social skills groups, and individual student sessions. At Washington, she is affectionately known as the Child Whisperer for her extraordinary gift of understanding and connecting with children. One student put it best: "If I had a choice to go back to one teacher's classroom for a day, I wouldn't even let them finish their sentence. I'd say you." Karen leaves with admiration of her colleagues, the love of her students, and a career full of moments that truly mattered. Last but not least, Melissa Kassmeyer. Melissa has been teaching in the Westfield Public Schools since 2004, beginning her career as a basic skills teacher before moving into first grade in 2008 and then to second grade in 2016. Throughout her time at Wilson, she has been known as a remarkable teacher who encourages children to do their best, make them feel safe, and ensures they feel deeply cared for. Her classroom balances high expectations with warmth and structure, creating a space where routines are clear, relationships are strong, and students feel seen, valued, and capable. Equally important has been her commitment to families and to the Wilson community as she welcomes parents into her classroom and brings learning to life through experiences such as Colonial Day, Young Authors Tea, Wonders of the Earth, and the End of the Year Show. Families trust her, knowing their children are not only learning but truly nurtured. Mrs. Kassemeyer leaves with gratitude of families, students, and colleagues, and a record of devoted service to the Wilson school community. We extend our heartfelt thanks to all of this year's retirees and wish them good health, happiness, and fulfillment in the years ahead.
Thank you, Dr. G.
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamonds,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas.
Yes.
Leila Morelli, Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
Now we'll move to finance and facilities and the always anticipated and rarely equaled diamond donation report.
Thank you, Rob. I'd like to move items A through J in the Finance and Facilities agenda. Before I do, I'd like to highlight $78,000 worth of donations we have today, bringing our total for this year to $286,000. So special thank you to Ted Rufiner and Danielle Ragno for donating a Giuseppe Mexi M425 4/4 cello, estimated value $1,782 for the Edison Orchestra program. Second, I'd like to thank the Franklin PTO for a donation of $4,223.32 to replace the playground slide. Hopefully it's not one of those aluminum ones we had when we were kids. Next, I'd like to thank the Wilson PTO for donating $71,484.40 for playground site prep to include borders and stonework, along with the purchase and installation of rubber surfacing, an orbit spinner, and orb rocker. Next, I'd like to thank Westfield Correlation for the Arts for donating $500 for a workshop on the 2018 Broadway musical, The Prom, held by Tony Award winner Beth Level for the W High School cast of this spring's musical. And next, I'd like to thank Kenneth McRitchie for donating $100 to fund the annual Walton Burris Music Award and Ian McRitchie Information Technology Award, awarded to a Westfield High School senior at awards night. Thank you to those individuals and organizations. And that is it. That's it.
We need a second first.
May I have a second? Thank you, Kristen.
All right, go for it.
All right, Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamonds,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas.
Yes.
Leila Morelli, Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz, Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
All right, next policies. I think, Mary, you're up again? Or Sonal, I'm sorry. Okay.
Forgot about them. I'd like to move items A and B in the policy section of tonight's agenda. Can I have a second? Sonal, that was record time.
All right, Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamonds.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas.
Yes.
Leila Morelli, Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
Okay, and last, curriculum instruction and programs. Kristen?
I'd like to move items A and B under the curriculum section of the agenda. Can I have a second? Kent?
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamonds,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas.
Yes.
Leila Morelli, Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Yes.
One budget discussion, we're all punching. We got Ben telling dad jokes, so that's good. We're ready to go here. That's good. I want to call the board's attention to the notes for the record. There is no unfinished or new business presented for this meeting. We'll move then to liaison reports. Anyone? Oh, Kristen, I know has one.
The January PTC meeting was held on January 21st in person to discuss district-wide initiatives, committee updates, and upcoming school events. The PTC also provided a beautiful breakfast and invited the principals to join in honoring Dr. Gonzalez for the New Jersey Superintendent of the Year Award. It was quite the breakfast, right? Dr. Volton attended the meeting to discuss block scheduling at the high school and the overall feedback gathered so far. He also provided an overview of the new courses that are in development. And then some important announcements from the meeting include the tentative date for the PTC Board of Education Candidates Night is April 15th, with the election scheduled for April 21st. The Crossing Guard breakfast for the appreciation of the Crossing Guards that's hosted by the PTC Breaks Committee will take place in April. I don't have an exact date yet. The PTC's Gifted and Talented Committee's STEAM Night event for K through 8 is actually tomorrow night on February 11th at Edison. And then the next PTC general meeting will be held virtually on February 18th at 10:30 a.m. That's it.
Any others?
Just wanted to save the date for the UCESC Gala, which will be on May 21st. And invitations will go out shortly to join us to celebrate all the accomplishments and contributions UCESC makes for our community.
Excellent, thank you. We'll now move to our second public comment period. Seeing as our meeting has not been inundated with a run of members of the public, I will open the public comment. I will say that the same rules from our initial public comment apply to this session. And seeing no one running up to speak, I will close the second public comment and make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second, please? I'll take Kristen on that one. All in favor? Any opposed? Good luck if you did. Any abstentions? Okay, we are adjourned.